Hey, Anthony,
Yeah,
what do you think about this Vanity Fair article that everyone's calling a hit piece?
it's not a hit piece, that's for sure. It's a carefully timed manipulation of the American public designed to soften the impact of Trump's name appearing in the Epstein files and otherwise prop up his image to his base.
How so?
Well, let's start with the players. Susie Wiles, Trump's chief of staff and subject of the article, isn't some sudden renegade who's seen the light. She's one of the most destructive political operatives in modern American history and has spent decades, dating back to the Reagan administration, helping to install some of the worst Republicans this country has seen, including Trump and his current cabinet. She's coldly intelligent, and nothing she says in this article is accidental, no matter how much she insists otherwise. And Vanity Fair also can't be trusted. Aside from being a publication mainly designed to promote rampant consumerism and distract the public with bread and circuses, it's owned through Condé Nast by the same billionaire publishing apparatus that helped to conceive and popularize the 1997 book Art of the Deal, which is the book that sold Americans a completely false image of Donald Trump as a genius businessman, and that myth is the foundation of MAGA itself. So, given who's speaking, who's publishing, and when the article dropped, this isn't coincidence, it's preemptive narrative management.
What does the article actually say?
Well, the piece itself, which is actually two long articles, is built from months of interviews between journalists Chris Whipple and Susie Wiles, stretching back to January. It's written less like investigative reporting and more like intimate gossip, framing the conversations about some of the most powerful people in the country as casual, almost affectionate exchanges between the two. Instead of being a whistleblower, Wiles is positioned as an exasperated but proud grandmother, gently venting about some unruly grandchildren rather than exercising real power. All of the criticism, except perhaps that of Elon Musk, who nobody likes, paints a picture of Trump and his cabinet as being patriotic and headstrong but human individuals who are doing their best for the country but sometimes have odd quirks and make mistakes. Nothing in here constitutes a hit piece, in my opinion. Instead, she's directly appealing to the strongman fantasy that MAGA loves, while also potentially giving herself some plausible deniability if things eventually go south, even in what she says about Trump.
Didn't she admit he was in the Epstein files?
Yes, but the left already believes that. And for those on the right who don't, this article serves two purposes at once. It releases the information early to soften the blow, and it supplies the excuse in advance that Trump is in the files like many others, but with no evidence of wrongdoing. She even throws Bill Clinton the same excuse in what is, in my opinion, again an attempt to lend credibility to her argument with a concession to the other side. The thing that really stands out to me, though, is her description of Trump and Epstein as young single playboys together, which is blatantly false, really telling of where she actually stands. Because that framing completely collapses once you look at the reality of who Trump actually was at the time. He wasn't some reckless kid. He was in his 40s and 50s, married multiple times, with children, immense wealth, and enormous power. And even if that weren't true, I'm exhausted by this boys will be boys excuse that's been used for generations to launder abuse, misogyny, and violence as an unavoidable byproduct of masculinity rather than a choice. A mindset that creates men like Trump and Epstein in the first place and then rushes to protect them after the fact. This isn't a story about frat boys being crude or men behaving badly in some abstract way. Jeffrey Epstein and the people around him ran a deliberately well funded operation that trafficked and sexually abused children for over a decade. And during that same time period, Trump owned the Miss Teen USA pageant. He bragged publicly about walking backstage while underage girls were undressed, and he maintained a close personal friendship with Epstein through the height of Epstein's abuse of children. So, no, calling them young single playboys isn't just inaccurate, it's deliberate minimization of power, responsibility, and harm. And seeing it used now, preemptively, as a cover for what's to come out is exactly why this article was published in the first place.